friends of What's Good. Today we're going to talk about the difference between a food allergy, a food sensitivity and a food intolerance. I think it's important to differentiate between these things because of the impact that these might have on your gut health and your health, outward health as a result. So it's going to save you from going around in circles basically. So let's start with a food allergy. You know, these can actually be quite severe in some cases, and they actually present themselves within about 30 minutes of eating a food, for example. They're actually mediated by an IgE antibody, which is produced by these immune cells called mast cells and basophils. And basically what happens is, likely because of a genetic predisposition, you develop an extreme sensitivity to the protein structure of certain foods, and then the IgE antibodies pick up this protein and launch histamine to attack this invader, which causes inflammation and damages tissues. So it's actually very damaging to your body if you have a food allergy. But in most cases it's very obvious that you do. Because you can present with some quite severe symptoms like a drastic drop in blood pressure, difficulty breathing and hives. You can also have a mild food allergy in terms of IgE, and this could be just a rash, swelling, itching, and potentially sneezing. But the half-life of this is about 1 to 2 days, so it's over quite quickly. So it's quite apparent if you do have a food allergy in that sense. And also it can actually be confused sometimes with histamine intolerance. There is some overlap there, but I'm going to do another video on testing for food allergies, so we'll delve into more detail there. And so a food sensitivity is also mediated by the immune system, but it's actually down to a different antibody, which is an IgG antibody. And this is actually really closely associated with the current state of your gut health. So, if you have a leaky gut, it's actually quite common to have an IgG food sensitivity. And, this is actually a lot more long-lasting. The half-life of these sensitivities is 21 days, and it's actually a lot more confusing than allergy because the onset could be from 4 hours until 72 hours. So, this is what can keep you going around in circles if you have a food sensitivity. And in that 21 days, which is potentially hanging around, you could be having joint pain, you could be having brain fog, mild depression, maybe mild anxiety, maybe some fatigue. So it's really important to establish if one of these is circulating, which I'll go into in another video for testing. But if you do have a leaky gut, then there's not much point in forking out for tests and dysbiosis if you have that, because there's so many confounding factors here that it's easier to clear up the leaky gut first and then do the tests if you want to. I'll do more on tests in another video. This is also how autoimmunity comes about. If you have a leaky gut, then proteins get picked up by IgG antibodies, and they develop a familiarity with these. And in a phenomenon called molecular mimicry, your immune cells, again, they operate by releasing histamine, inducing inflammation. They can actually, establish a foreign protein and produce the antibodies for that. And the molecular mimicry part is where certain tissue structures in your body, for instance on the pancreas or on the thyroid, can actually have similar peptide chains and similar protein structures. So this is where your immune system can actually start to attack those healthy tissues. So it's quite important to establish these food sensitivities if you might be predisposed genetically to having an autoimmune condition. And lastly, on to food intolerances. Now, these are also associated with maybe genetics and quite often poor gut health. They're non-immune mediated, which means that they're mostly down to lacking the digestive enzyme or the specific nutrient needed to break down certain components of food. So, histamine is actually a form of intolerance. You can be intolerant to histamine-containing foods. Alcohol and dairy, also preservatives, artificial colorings, sulfites. These are all things you can be intolerant to, and also lectins from unsoaked grains and nuts and seeds and things like that. So you also get inflammation, bloating, discomfort, that inflammation can be damaging again if you're continually eating these foods. It's actually mediated by not having enough of the digestive enzymes on the intestinal brush border to break down those food components, and also if you're under stress, this can reduce the output of digestive enzymes from the pancreas, which could cause you to be rendered unable to digest these foods properly. So that was just a down low of the difference between these, between those, because I know it can be a little confusing, because the symptoms cross over sometimes. I'm going to do another video on how to test for these things, and the pitfalls and the advantages of each test, and how testing can help you, inform you of a direction to take with maybe your diet or as such. So thanks for tuning in, guys, and stay tuned for some more videos.